Hello. So yeah, this is a bit late for various reasons. I forgot I forgot Doctor Who was on, which is bad of me. So I had a Pathfinder game last night, and every time I got home, it was I had to watch Doctor Who afterwards. Before I had to do that, I had to go find my cat's poop because he hid his poop. Um, so I had to spend about an hour looking for that, and then watch Doctor Who, and then I fell asleep before I did this stream. Um, so now it's the next day after I finished work and rehearsals. I'm currently hiding in a corner of um, my students' union, which is where I work. You might hear the vague sound of a jazz orchestra um, rehearsing in the background, but that explains kind of the weird quality of my stream today and the sound quality, so you have to forgive it. And if I go silent, look awkward for a couple of moments, it's because someone's walking past, which is also why I'm talking quietly so no one can hear me talk to myself on the computer. Um, that's kind of why. Anyway, I don't have actually much thoughts to say on Praxeus, which is probably beneficial because it makes it very quick. Um, but which is good because I'm going to run away since I've done. But yeah, I mean, Praxeus was all in all an average of 2 episodes. I think it's the second time I've said it this season. Um, I think if it was earlier on in modern Doctor Who time release dates, people wouldn't probably react as much. But I think we've got used to more epic storylines that it seems a bit anti seems a bit of a more kind of low key an episode, but it's also the second episode we got after Off 55 with an environmental message. But this is actually better executed. I mean, it was kind of the story was the themes were the environmental theme was on the nose. It was quite a forward part of the episode, but it wasn't subtle. But at least it didn't impact the narrative in the same way that the message in Off 55 impacted the narrative. So I think it was better executed. I don't think it was too thrown at us. I think it was incorporated into the plot in a way which seems natural. Like the Doctor, like in the previous in R55, the Doctor literally stopped the plot to give the message, and it was kind of tacked on and thrown in there. Here, it was introduced as an explanation for why the plot was happening, and I think that made it much better in terms of the message it was trying to convey. I think if people weren't so angry and sour over R55, that they might not react the same way to this, but people I think have reacted to the same way that the environmental message was put through. But I think the plot was okay. I think the idea of and I think that I like how the reasons why the infection happened wasn't out of malice. It was from a hyper advanced alien species using the Earth as a petri dish, which is no different from what we as a species do to lower animals. It was actually kind of nice because really you can argue that the villains weren't actually villains; they were just there for their own survival. Um, and there's only so much you can really judge that. I guess you could judge it entirely because it's experimenting on a sapient race. You may hear the jazz orchestra much more potently in the background now. So I guess we're now the background backing noise for this review. Um, but it adds a bit of grim morality, which I do appreciate. Yeah. Um, so yeah, I mean, and it was a relatively. I mean, it wasn't a massive plot twist, but for an average Doctor Who episode, it was an alright plot twist. Um, and I kind of like the way we were introduced in medias res and that the characters were already investigating. That's been done a few times, but it was nice to see it kind of used here. I still see. So we've had a running kind of track about how good Ryan is um, paired off with other characters. He was, I think I said he was fairly terrible in Orphan 55, and then he was much better in a subsequent episode when he was paired off with someone else. I can't remember which one it is now. I've lost track. And then this one, he was paired off initially with that American blogger whose name I've forgotten. And before he joined the other guys again, yeah, no, Ryan is still the weakest link out of the companions, and then Yaz is only slightly better, but still a bit insufferable in many ways. Graham's okay. The Doctor I like. I think Judd Whittaker, with perhaps better writing and direction, is coming more into their own as the Doctor, and I think we're generally seeing better kind of Doctor moments which you can see, which you could get any other Doctor character actor to do and would come across. Would seem obviously the Doctor as a Doctor. So especially when because in this episode the Doctor appears in this three simultaneous investigations going on, and they will appear like suddenly at another investigation point, sort of having gone and checked up on the team, already doing their own kind of mid-investigation. I think that was kind of a nice way to kind of just have the Doctor appear, because you already trust their competence and they already have like 5 steps ahead. Yeah, I mean, I can't say much about the episode, and it's really fairly average. The birds were a nice threat, if not very much done, but I like to think it was a homage to Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds, and really any other horror thriller thing where you get some of birds attacking someone. It's been done before, and I like to think it's a homage to that. And again, I don't think the themes were as fun. I don't mind overt themes as long as the narrative is packaged around it well, and I think this kind of did that okay-ish. I mean, to me, the best modern Who episode, which has given a message, which has executed the whole, giving a message, a progressive social message, and having a decent impactful plot, is probably the Zygon two-parter that Capaldi did, which has a very good anti-war message, and that was executed very well. I think that's kind of the peak for me, and I think that's a good potential for Doctor Who can really represent in terms of progressive social action. So it's kind of, that's the standard, but it was a fairly decent episode. That one was. This podcast was okay, if not a bit cheesy, but hey, that's Doctor Who for you. They made the use of kind of a South African location shoots very well, and it's nice to see kind of cinematography actually coming into its own. Yeah, that's kind of the thoughts I have. Average Doctor Who episode. I just kind of want to make this blog because I've kept kind of decently reviewing each episode. I think it's kind of disappointing we didn't really Doctor Who story arcs has a weird history because the classic episode of Doctor Who, classic series Doctor Who never really had story arcs, and then I think the first kind of, there's a piece of hair stuck in my computer somehow. I don't know if you can actually see it at the bottom here. You can't. Classic Doctor Who didn't really have story arcs, and then I think I want to say the key of time was probably the first one, and then there was a couple of more further on. I've managed to separate the string. The keys of time was the first one, and there's some further on, and then as story arcs became more of a thing in modern Doctor Who, because that's kind of what we expect from TV as we kind of consume it at a much more faithful rate. I think we follow storylines past different things more consistently. But that's really inconsistent. So some people expect it and get annoyed when they and think it's a flaw when they don't have it. Other people don't really mind as much. But after last week's kind of, what was it? There's a concept called earth shattering, and it's not necessarily literally, or it's not necessarily even the meta scale a bigger thing in the whole scheme of the entire show. But as a narrative plot point, an earth shattering twist which should change everything for the characters. Last week was that, and the fact that we went from that to nothing this week is kind of jarring, but as long as we go back to it next week, I don't think it's that much of an issue. It's kind of my point, but we were expecting to see usually there is some kind of notion of it, but we didn't really get that here, but that's fine. It's happened in the past as well. We've had kind of episodes where things have happened, and then the next episode we don't see anything of it, and then we go back to it afterwards, so that's more or less fine. Yeah. The CGI of the birds for birds was fairly crap. I think you should be able to do birds on a low budget by now, but so be it. Yeah, I think that's general my thoughts. I have a home to go to, and I don't want someone to walk in and me talking to myself because I'm still a bit self-conscious about that. So I'll leave it at that. But yeah, an overall average Doctor episode. I don't think it's bad. I think it was okay. Okay. Yep. So I'll see you guys next week, hopefully on time this time. I don't think I have any plans. I'll try to keep it that way.